minutes ago. But we are actually moving toward the end of the first day. And this will be the last panel of today. I really would love to reflect a little bit with you on the topic. So future and utility of NFTs. Do you think that utility comes first in terms of innovation? Or do you think it's first an innovation that comes and then utility follows? Who thinks that any innovation comes from a need to have a utility? And who thinks that innovations come and then we find use for them? You think some third alternative thing? That's an interesting separation. Anyway, I think that innovations come as ideas and then utility comes in terms of reflection on these ideas. So I'm really happy to invite here Omar Rahim, the moderator of our next panel, who will introduce you to your speakers. And then stay tuned. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you here. Hopefully, we'll try and make this a very interesting discussion. I know NFTs are a real hot topic now, especially what's going on in the market. So I'd just like to welcome up our panelists, and then we can get right into it and find out what's going on in the wonderful world of NFTs. So if all the panelists would like to come up, we can get started. Please welcome the panelists onto the stage. Good to see you. Please have a seat. Great. So just to kick things off, I'll give you a brief introduction. I'm Omar Rahim. I used to lead the MENA team at Binance. I've been in crypto around 6 years and recently set up Matcha Capital, which invests in pre-seed deals in the crypto stage out of Europe and Dubai. And very interested today to sort of really zero in on the NFT market, something that really took the market by storm in 2021. Had a very difficult 2022, so I'm going to be really interested to hear what the panelists have to say. But as a kickoff, let's maybe do some introduction. So if you want to give a brief introduction, then we can get into the discussion. Switch on.
Test. Hello, I'm Adam. I'm the CEO of NFT Tech. We're a publicly listed entity on the Canadian Stock Exchange. Recently, my entity was acquired by NFT Tech. And we specialize in onboarding the next 10,000, 100,000, million plus from existing audiences into Web3. So, yeah, I look forward to this panel today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Madhur Prabhakar, and I'm the founder of Equate Network. At Equate, we are building the world's first decentralized society using dynamic soul-bound tokens to enable uncollateralized lending.
Hi, I'm Jawad Ashraf. I'm CEO of Virtua. We're a metaverse company. We've been around for about 5 years. We also have an NFT platform, and basically we've been working with some of the top brands in the world to try to go into the what next to the metaverse.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. So what I want to really do today, I really want to get an insight into the nitty-gritty, into the NFT market. And one thing that people outside the market who have exposure to this but are maybe not involved in it day in, day out like you guys, one thing that really grabbed me, I saw a Bloomberg headline recently that NFT volumes are down 97% compared to their peak. I mean, my first question would be, how on earth do we recover from that? So I'm not going to ask you whether you think they'll bounce back, because you wouldn't be wasting your time in this space, right? But it'd be good to hear from each of you on how you think the NFT market can bounce back from such a sort of a brutal downturn that we've seen. So I don't know who wants to start.
Okay. It's down to the title of the panel. It's utility. There was a lot of froth on the market, and like with any new technology that comes in, there was a lot of excitement. And what happened with NFTs where everyone was buying in, but there was a lot of tat on the market. There was all celebrity. It was all unbridled speculation. And now what's happened is that volume has gone down. Those retail speculators have gone along with the shareholders of normal companies, with people investing in crypto. they've dampened down and the volumes have gone down. And now utility is going to lead the charge. And that's, like, I think all of us will have something along those lines to discover.
Yeah, I would just like to add on what he has said. The key word is utility. Now, if you look at the NFT market right now, the key utility is proof of ownership, right? And that's the reason there are very few use cases which are primarily digital collectibles. Now, in order for us to bounce back from this, we need to increase the utility by creating or making some changes to the NFT ecosystem, wherein they now represent not just proof of ownership but also rights, permissions, and privileges. For that to happen, needs to be one thing that needs to be changed about the NFTs, and that is transferability. Right now, we cannot have permissions because you cannot transfer your permissions, right? So that's the reason I think, that is where soul-bound tokens come into the picture, and that is where the future is going to be for NFTs.
No, I agree. Please.
I don't use the word utility. I use the definition I look for is purpose within a project. So when we work with tier one brands and evergreen IP that you'd recognize, it's about what would be meaningful to the existing audience to inspire them to go and download or learn how a digital wallet would work, how to then buy into crypto if necessary, and then what the security protocols come from there on. I think everyone can talk about a glorified aspect of like utility is the power. That's the key. But honestly, from my sake and from a lot of people that we've been working with, they already have the tools. The power is in the technology itself, and digital ownership and making something that someone can trade is the benefit in our eyes. So I think working with existing brands, they already have that utility. It's about how it can be meaningful to the person that's holding it.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And I think Jawad, you raised an interesting point at the start there, that most people's exposure to NFTs had been this craze since 2021, really, when most people became aware of NFTs. I think it's fair to say there wasn't a lot of substance behind a lot of projects. You three are running businesses which are very different, where you're dealing with real brands who operate in the real world. What are the biggest, first of all, what is the knowledge level like at those brands when they come to you in terms of NFTs? And secondly, is their focus right? So are they coming to you with a deep understanding of NFTs, or are you having to do a lot of education to sort of divert them away from, something that's going to have 15 minutes of fame? So what is your typical interaction like with these sort of Web2 brands?
Well, it's changed. We've been doing this since 2018. When we approached brands, we went to like a Paramount Legendary, and we were having to explain to them what an NFT was. Now we're having to explain to a brand what an NFT isn't, because now it's just a ton of preconceptions. So as the market's changed, our conversations with brands have changed as well. And in terms of maturity, some brands are putting people in place to help them on the journey, but often a lot of our team is spending time educating and explaining not just how NFTs can work with them or metaverse utility around it, but how it will work with their particular brand. Just recently, we finished doing an activation with Kevin Hart, and he did a drop of an NFT, and he made a movie. And the 4th episode, you could only view in our metaverse if you had his NFT, and that was the utility of having the NFT. It was a pass to access content he specifically provides. So that, again, was something we came up with the Hart crew. So that's the sort of thing that you have to have. Some will have less education, but some of them, when you start them on the journey, will just come up with lots of ideas.
I love gated experiences. I think that's one of the... I had a penny drop moment a few years ago where I was consulting for Decentraland as the head of partnerships alongside what I was doing at my studio. And for that couple of years, I had a front row seat to every brand wanting to enter the metaverse. And the metaverse, in inverted commas, were NFTs, what was blockchain, how did crypto look like? And I witnessed firsthand an intrigued employee that felt like they wanted to know something, to a global innovation team creating headcount specific around Web3. I think today we look at things and we think and consider like the volume's low in OpenSea. We have a number of different marketplaces, and I don't blame it for being what it is. But I do think for brands alike, they're starting to see great case studies and they're getting inspired about what the possibility may look like. But it's for us, it's for our peers to keep delivering great innovation, great ways for a case study to be used, look like, adapted, and then built on further. So I think it's intriguing to think about where brands are at. It's definitely like a few years ago, they had no idea. They didn't even have a headcount around it. But it is exciting to think that Adidas have now a full global innovation team that's to Web3, that they're now looking at how they can procure the right studios to develop these projects to the extent that they're willing to now push. And I think like that just wasn't the case even 6 to 9 months ago. So yeah, if anyone wants to see a project, I personally worked on one called the Australian Open Art Ball. It won a Bronze Lion at the Cannes Festival Award. And what was super intriguing about that was it used the technology, but it now is going into its second year, and that word utility will start to be explored a lot further. What does it mean if I own this virtual or digital tennis ball, and how does it give me value moving forward? And I think that's super exciting when organizations are willing to explore that and build case studies in real time.
I think we've talked quite a lot about utility. One thing for me as a sort of an investor in other companies in this space is I notice how many, let's say, celebrity-owned and managed and run projects fail first time round, and then the second time round they go to firms like yours and say, okay, well, how do we make this work? So a real sort of wake-up call for me in the NFT space was looking at brands and individuals who have a massive following, 10, 20, 30 million followers on social media, and they were selling less than $50,000 worth of NFTs. It's not as simple, and I think the cause for a lot of that was the profile picture craze we saw, where people were churning out cartoon animals and expecting to earn $10 million from it. So one question that interests me really is, you've all talked about utility, real user cases for NFTs. Do you think it's legitimate for retail investors here today to look at NFTs as investments, not from a regulatory perspective, but for me, if I want one of your experiences, I can absolutely see the user case, sort of a gated token. But do you think it's legitimate for me to look at some of these NFTs as sort of looking for an increase in value of that NFT? Madhur, maybe you want to start.
Yeah, I think we are past that point where primarily people were just thinking about having an NFT that is going to appreciate in value, because that is how we all came to know about NFTs. Now we have evolved to a place where now people have started to question, okay, something has value and it is going to go up or down based on the demand and supply. But what is next? The other thing is, based on having an NFT, what is it that I am getting? It might not be getting an additional value. It might be some privilege, as one of the speakers mentioned, that if you have a particular NFT, it gets you a special access to a exclusive club or things like that. They in a way also contribute to your value increasing over a period of time. So that's what I feel about it.
And sorry, Jawad, you were going to say?
Yeah, but what you're going to find is like with anything. When people buy art, if they buy a terrible piece of art, it's not going to appreciate. When anyone buys an NFT, they think because it's an NFT, it will appreciate. Do your research. Ultimately, that's what it is. And one of the problems that we're going to have with utility and functionality-based NFTs is often it cannot be infinite. And once the experience or whatever else around it sort of expires, what is the value of the underlying NFT? You're going to have issues like that we still need to figure out as well. Some NFTs will keep on giving and some won't.
Very
I just want to add something that he mentioned that do your own research. Again, in my personal experience, I've seen there are two kinds of people. One who want to do research, the others they don't want to do the research. They are so just caught up with the FOMO that for them, if somebody else is buying an NFT, they don't want to do anything else. They just want to follow them. So that again there are two kinds of personalities, and it depends on where you are.
Yeah, for sure.
Omar, do you own an NFT?
I do own some NFTs, and we invest in some NFT platforms as well. And I think for me, we do a lot within the sports field. So I think having gated tokens, really monetizing, the assets that athletes have is an area that I really believe in. Following on from that, one question I had for you, Adam, based on a point you raised earlier, is do Web2 users really care about NFTs? Do they care that it is an NFT? Do they care about the technology? And a question for everyone really, where you spend so much time living and breathing NFTs. Let's future gaze a little bit. In the next 2 years, do you think people will be talking about these tokens as NFTs?
It's how you use the technology. I think the digital ownership part is a critical key to what it means to a user, but it may not actually matter too much to them, to be honest. Like the Web 2 user is after certain parts of this to make sense to them. And if you look at the Australian Open Art Ball, we split the court into 6,776 tiles, and we truly randomized it to each individual so that there was not one human fingerprint. All the principles of what we talk about Web3 can be put through different projects. I think it's about having that purpose that attracts someone to want to do it. And if my mum's tapping me on the shoulder saying she understood what that project actually meant, I think we did the right thing. So in the next few years, I don't think we will reflect on these being NFTs. I think there will be loyalty, there will be membership, there will be social tokens of sorts that people interact with and get value propositions out of. I do believe marketplaces have some play, but I think it comes down to ease of access for onboarding new users, and I look forward to that.
Also, one thing that NFTs fundamentally can help with that we don't talk about that much are basically we went from Web 1 to full digital. You were able to own a DVD and sell it. You had a book which had value. You had music which you own and could trade. Now we suck everything down a straw from Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon. NFTs fundamentally can bring the old back to the new. So even a good example is like here in GITEX, the magazine published by Gulf Business for GITEX is published on Virtua as an NFT, where you can actually have it, anywhere, it's platform agnostic, and it's just a standard use case. It's not necessarily going to have inherent value, it's just a way to use an NFT. And these key industries are fundamentally going to be using NFTs. We always talk about these edge cases and new functionality, but a lot of it's going to be the fundamentals coming back to us of ownership.
Yeah, very, very interesting, because I think we have focused a lot on user cases and how that's going to develop, but I think you both raised a good point in terms of the technology aspect may become NFTs, but people won't really care. So, I believe millions of Web2 users will be onboarded into getting their first digital wallets, trading their first tokens, without calling them tokens, without calling them NFTs, and it will just be infrastructure.
And one thing to add to that, so when we launched Virtua, we went on the paradigm of the granny purchase, which means grandma needs to be able to buy an NFT without knowing the first thing about crypto. So you need to be able to go online, pay, not know the first thing about a wallet, then come out. That's important for mass market adoption.
Very, very interesting. Okay, so a couple of questions then on the future, where you see the market going for NFTs. So as I mentioned, we saw largely this profile picture is 10,000 limited editions of profile pictures, which really introduced the world to NFTs. And now we hear from outside the industry, we see music, we see film, we see experiences. What do you think for our audience here that are interested and are watching the NFT market? What do you think are the things to watch out for over the next 18 to 24 months in terms of application of those NFTs?
I think, the one thing to watch out for is soul-bound tokens, right? And the perfect reason is because they add another dimension to what NFTs could not do earlier.
I think, is it worth explaining what a soul-bound token is, maybe?
Yeah, so basically, soul-bound token is nothing but a non-transferable NFT. And what that non-transferability brings in is that, for example, if I have a social security number, it cannot be transferred. You might use that as an NFT, as a use case, but it is not suitable because I can send it or I can transfer it to somebody else. And that is where, this line diminishes. And so in order to achieve the user experience of Web 2, where the user does not know what technology they are interacting with, they are just comfortable and so used to with that, this thing needs to happen, and SBTs are the way which is going to facilitate it.
Adam, any views on that, the sort of the trends in the NFT market over the next couple of years?
We were building for an entity called Linktree at the start of the year, and they've got 30 million users. And, it's a huge content creator platform. But for us, we started to, you can't help but build and then have your blinkers on and realize what the benefits may be may not appeal to a lot of people today, but it comes down to e-commerce. Like we talked about gated experiences. So imagine going and signing onto a website that you have an NFT, you've connected your wallet, you've got your NFT, it's read your NFT, and instantly the page has every discount that's applicable to the NFT that you hold. Instantly, you have access to product that no one else, unless they've got that NFT, can get. And instantly, you can go and view different content just because of that NFT that you have as well. And I think parts of all of this are like, we're starting to see this out of some custom merch, some gated experiences in virtual worlds. But when you think about e-commerce, you can't help but think about the benefits that a lot of one NFT token sort of makes a password, coupon codes, promotions, all redundant. So I think that's what we're building towards anyway.
From my point of view, a lot of it's going to be about making the metaverse more than just about land speculation. Right now, if you look at the daily active users and the metaverses, they're very low because basically there's nothing to do. And NFTs are going to end up creating and build the building blocks of experiences in metaverses. So you'll be able to have curated lands in metaverses run by brands who will be able to run their own experiences. So we're working with many, including Shelby and the like, where you have racing experiences if you're a Shelby fan. But also, I see the Metaverse OS, where you basically allow other people to build experiences on the metaverse that can harness NFTs, is what's going to drive people coming in. The metaverse is going to be the mass market coming in, consuming and using NFTs. Just imagine a use case like a game. You have games right now on Steam where people buy the game and the game which is modified makes more money than the game. But imagine if you can buy a game as an NFT, modify it and mint it as your own NFT. You can create so many new monetization strategies, but ultimately plug them into the metaverse. What's Apple but an ecosystem for apps? Once you have a metaverse and people can plug their own applications in, and a metaverse that can do that right, that's where you need, anyone who wants NFTs, that's where you should go.
Yeah, really interesting. And it's really drawing this distinction. We've touched on metaverse for the first time here. I want to spend a little bit more time on the metaverse. And it's been a real hot topic, not least here in Dubai. Obviously, we've had a huge metaverse announcement very recently in Dubai. But it seems to be a hot topic here. And there's a fair degree of skepticism over, number one, the metaverse in general, and number two, applications that we're seeing in the metaverse. Is your view, and this is really a question for everyone on the panel, that we are going to see a handful of metaverses that dominate the landscape like we see now with Twitter, Facebook, etc.? Or do you think metaverse will evolve into niches where in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, I'll be accessing 100 different metaverses like I access 100 different websites?
Well, I think, that depends from, on the user. So if I like something which is exclusive, so for example, we have seen a lot of metaverse projects here. If that is what I like, I'm going to go there, irrespective of how many other, metaverses are there, right? And so I don't think it is going to be ruled by any one, company or organization as such. It is going to be driven by the desire of a user to participate or to, be a part of that experience.
I mean, look, the internet is a metaverse or website. So you're just going to have multiple metaverses connected together, and that will be the metaverse, like we have their internet. No one wants to go on holiday to the same place all the time. It's going to be different experiences.
No, absolutely. And touching on this topic really on NFTs, I mean, we've got three obviously fantastic businesses here. Who are the people in the NFT space that you respect the most in terms of that you look up to as an example that are doing things right for the space? Maybe.
Well, for me, I think the torchbearer in this field is Vitalik, because he just came up with this research paper. And what he's saying is that the problems in DeFi can only be solved once we shift our focus from value in an NFT to reputation. That can be done via soul-bound tokens. So I think he knows or he has that vision where and how it's going to shape up.
Okay. Adam, any views on companies sort of most respected in your eyes?
I think it's very early at this point in time. I think there's great benefit in layer one with Ethereum. I'm a romantic. It's a love-hate relationship. But Polygon as layer 2, I think is great. It has its challenges, but if we look at different products and projects out in the market over the last few years, it's too early to think of what's doing great and what's not. I do think something like Decentraland it's more than a platform, it's an ethos. And I think it's an amazing team that's behind it, but the community that have been able to go and experience it in its highs, its lows, where that's going and where that's heading, I'm super intrigued to see. But ultimately it's very early. I just think that everyone has to keep pushing and developing great and innovative ideas.
I think Virtua is great, but I'm heavily biased. There's plenty of great projects there, but like you say, it's very, very early. And a lot of the interesting things we're going to see are going to happen over the next year because there was a lot of froth in the market. Now, the people who are going to make the most interesting things are the ones who can knuckle down. I've got a burn rate. I can get through this winter.
Absolutely.
That's going to be they're going to be the best projects, the one who actually add sense as well as passion. I think
makes a lot of sense. Okay, so final question. A lot of people here have turned up to hear your views on the future of the NFT market. So I think it might be interesting to hear your views on what do you think our audience here should be looking for if they're thinking of getting involved in an NFT project, albeit as a contributor, a user, or actually buying an NFT. What are the things that you would recommend that they look at when they're thinking of engaging with an NFT project?
Well, I think first of all, they should be very concerned about from where they are purchasing or trading that NFT, because there are a lot of places where there are a lot of fake volumes and things are just so manipulated that you might think it is going to go up, and eventually when you buy it, it all goes crashing down. So I think one is that apart from, yes, you have to do your own research. You should know what you're buying or what you're getting into.
Never, never, never buy into the hype. That's all I'd say. But look at the teams and also look at the area of the market. And again, reflecting what you say, do your own research. But the thing that you should never, ever do is just FOMO into a project. That's suicide.
I think it's a character building exercise, to be honest. Like, not suicide, but, like hands on heart, it's getting involved in downloading a digital wallet, understanding that maybe you can be part of a rug pull or not, learning from that and continuing down that merry way. But if it's short-term to mid-term, there's amazing educational tools, and you can do your own research by going onto YouTube, or you could be going into one of these different groups that specialize in helping people on board. And I suggest doing a lot of that if you're trying to. But personally, I've had a lot of penny drop moments, and I look forward to more to come in terms of how I can lean in on my experience in the past and what I continue to learn in this space. And if you're wanting to come and work or add value to a current community, I think it's about finding out how it connects to you, your experience and your interests, and expanding on that and speaking openly about it all. So yeah.
Great. No, thank you very much. I think we're just about out of time, but Adam, Madhur, and Jawad, thank you so much for sharing your insight. And if everyone could show their appreciation, thank you very much.